Welcome to the Insurance Agency Success Podcast, the only show that helps independent insurance agencies grow their business while increasing their joy and happiness. I'm Eddie Price, founder of Genesis Software and an agency owner for more than 30 years. I've bought, started, sold, and scaled agencies, and for the last 25 years through Genesis, I've helped others do the same. And on this show, you're going to hear real stories and proven strategies so you can streamline operations, increase profits, and really enjoy the business that you've built. And if you'd like to learn more about how we can help your insurance agency, visit genesissoftware.com and click on the Request a Demo button. So I have with me today a special friend, Doug Fincannon, and I met Doug originally, probably, I'm guessing, let's say 10 years ago. And he doesn't remember it, I don't think, but I met him at an insurance company event. And he, at the time, was president of an insurance company. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So I was at this event. And what I've not shared with you, Doug, since I've been reconnected with you over the last couple of years, is you came over to me and you had found out who I was, not because it mattered, not because I was anybody that was important, but you probably asked, who's he, from your team maybe, who's he with? And you came over and you started talking to me in such an excited way. I remember it to this day. I've not told you that before, have I, in the last 2 years?
No, you have not.
And isn't it interesting that I remember it this long after that? And that's a good reminder to me, and it's a good reminder to all of us. Let's try to be that person that shows interest in other people, and not just ourselves. So known Doug, met him 10 years ago, reconnected with Doug a couple of years ago. We're going to go through all that story here today and how it's changed my life in some ways, how it's had an impact on my business. And the reason I wanted you here today, Doug, is because I think there's people that will listen and watch this podcast who most are independent insurance agents that I think what you can share with them can have a positive impact in their personal lives and in their business lives. That's kind of the point. That's why we're here today. Let's start, if you will, by kind of introducing yourself. And let's take us through the Doug story, as you think it relates to the insurance world. And we're going to be talking specifically about your role now in the organization C12. So bring us up till now.
Yeah, so there'll be a couple tracks that I'll try and put together in this, but I was blessed to grow up in a Christian home. So from my earliest days, I was surrounded by what I would say is gospel influences. I also was upper middle class, so I was greatly blessed from that perspective. And I would also say that it tended also to be culturally Christian as well. I grew up born in North Carolina, raised in Richmond, Virginia. So there was a lot of that Southern culture that was just expected or just assumed that you were a Christian. It wasn't, and I go down that path because it wasn't until later in life that I really started to see my, what I believe from an early age, a young teen, where I started following Christ, really come into fore though later in life. But I started down a path of ministry. And so I had opportunity after college to go on to seminary, did seminary, went into ministry work. I was the head of a school and part of an executive pastor team in Baltimore, Maryland. And I did that for 8 years or so. And then through a whole host of reasons why, I transitioned away, moved out of Baltimore back to North Carolina, and became involved in the insurance world, starting with the same company. I was with the same company for 23 years. It was an actual carrier, but it had an agency force, and I joined the agency force and then worked my way up in this small insurance company to become the president of the company. And so I did that for 23 years, and just loved every minute of it. I'm still passionate about the insurance world. I'm not saying that because I'm on this podcast. There are days where I regret I'm still not in it, quite frankly, because I just love it. I think it's a fascinating business. I appreciated the marketing sales side as an agent, and that's your world that you're in. But having been on the carrier side as well, the underwriting, claims, the operations within an insurance company, the regulatory side of it. I just think it's a fascinating business. And even though neither of my kids are gone into insurance, I tried both of them. I just think it's got a great future. It serves such a great need, and it's a delightful thing. So I have these two tracks. And I am, by the way, currently a pastor and just a shepherding elder in a local church. So I have this ministry side of me, and I have this business side of me. And it's really where in C12 that I became, first, I was a member of C12 when I was running the insurance company and benefiting it from that perspective. And then the Lord called me to C12, and there's a story there. We don't have to go down that path, but I went kicking and screaming into C12. It took me over a year to really see clearly, for my wife and I to see clearly the Lord leading me, doing this 6 years ago. But I left the insurance world now in C12. But this dual track of ministry and business has been put together into C12, and I've enjoyed the journey that I'm on for a whole host of reasons, the kingdom work that I do. But I get to work with guys like you, gals that share a common understanding of this business as a ministry, great businesses for a greater purpose kind of idea. So that's kind of my background story. Haven't done anything famous. I don't think I'm in any Hall of Fames that I know of, but the Lord's been good and faithful to me.
And some of that I didn't know, so I'm excited. One of the things I'll mention is, and I think I may have mentioned this to you at one point at lunch or something, but the reason I'm doing this podcast, like most things, there's no one reason. But some of the reasons, excuse me, is I truly enjoy carving out time, because how many times have we had lunch in the last 2 years and I just learned things about you? And I'm looking forward to the next 30, 45 minutes to be able to kind of unpack a lot more information that I'll enjoy and that I think other people will enjoy. My point is, I'm not doing this just for everybody else. I'm really interested in the topics and the people that I'm choosing to talk to, and I can't lose. So no matter how this plays out, it's just really a blessing to me to be able to talk to people like you and others that I've talked to, and I'm so excited about, in the future. It's such a learning opportunity for me. So a little bit about the why. So, one thing that's really cool, you talked about you loving so many facets of the insurance business and the company business. Not everybody's that way. And it can be a blessing or a curse. I tend to like almost everything about business, and it makes it exciting. It keeps you, reduces the chance maybe of something really falling through the cracks over here in some other area that you're not paying attention to. And it helps you connect the dots, I think, from all the different pieces of a company. But where it could be a curse is that you can't let, if you're not careful, you don't let other leaders take that department and run it. So I have to fight against that a little bit, because I'm with you. I'm fascinated by all the little pieces, moving pieces of a business. So let's talk about what the heck is C12? How do you explain that to people?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think there's a fundamental concept that we have to wrestle with first to understand the why behind the what of C12, and it's this idea of, I think, discipleship. For those of us who have a faith walk and believe the story of the gospel and who Christ is and what he's done for us, there's a real clarity to his command at the very end of Matthew, and you just start to see it build through the gospels into Acts and then on into the epistles, is this idea that we're to be disciples of Christ, and we are to be making disciples of Christ. And it doesn't matter what part of our life. And I think that's the hard part, that a lot of people just get confused. They think pastors and youth pastors and worship team leaders, they make disciples, but that's Sunday stuff and that's just church stuff. And I don't think that's what Jesus is saying there in Matthew when he tells his disciples to go into all the world and make disciples. And I think there is a geography aspect of that, but I also think there is, whatever you're doing, you're a parent, a spouse, you're a neighbor, everything is a discipleship opportunity, and a business owner. Running an insurance agency is also a discipleship opportunity. So now you may not accept that, but that's an underlying philosophy of what we try and do at C12, is just believing it's not an option. Christian who isn't a disciple is an oxymoron. Those two just don't even go together. Christian and disciple are the same thing. And so now the question is, how do you live out that idea? And so that's what we try and do at C12 is we try and help owners of businesses build great businesses. So this concept of, you're saying, loving business. My dad, I didn't say earlier, owned a manufacturing firm in the textile world. And I worked in that for a little while, and I loved the manufacturing side of business. I find business fascinating as well. I love the insurance world, the agency world. I love the carrier side, the industry as a whole. And so that aspect of being robustly healthy and good and efficient and well done in every aspect of a business is part of what we try and do at C12. And there's also this greater purpose aspect. We want well-run insurance agencies. We want well-run software companies to do it well and to do it with intentionality, to bless, encourage people, and make disciples of people. So it's kind of that business, again, that double track of what I was trying to say in my own life, how combining ministry and business, it just, I think, helps me as a C12 chair to fulfill this kind of role. Great businesses that are healthy across the organization and every aspect of it, but also to do it with intentionality for a greater purpose.
Love all that. Tell us, when I joined C12 and the first time someone shared that there was this organization called C12, here's kind of what it was about. And that you, when I first heard about this, were the head of my local area, C12, contacted you. We had lunch at that time, several years ago. I decided I didn't have time for it, or for whatever reason, I don't remember. I didn't do it. I didn't start. And then a little bit out of the blue a couple of years ago, nothing's really out of the blue, by the way. There's something going on up there, some influence. I contacted you and we did lunch again, I think. And then I joined. I became a member of C12. And I did it because I think a little bit because of that out of the blue thing. I think I was being called, that this was something that I was supposed to do. And the simple result, there's a lot of complex, and maybe we'll get into some of that in our time together here. But the simple result for me, I think, has been renewed and newfound purpose that wasn't exactly that crystal clear 2 years ago. Now, after being in business for 30 years, it's a shame it takes us so long to get to where we're going sometimes, doesn't it? But let's go back, though. There's people that could be hearing what they've heard so far and not, they're still missing a little bit of the framework or the structure. So tell us a little bit about how long C12 has been around. How many members are there? How do you join? That part about the 12 and the the forums, that's needs some explaining, I think. And maybe even who's a good candidate? Why would someone want to join C12?
Yeah, great question, Eddie. Thanks for that. First of all, C12 is a peer advisory group So I'm a chair, not a guru or a mentor. It's really about me cultivating a dynamic of people who have a shared vision and have been called to run a business, whatever it is. They want to grow. They have needs to get better, to be continuing to learn, trying to implement new things, trying to not grow for growth's sake, grow for stewardship's sake. Growth doesn't necessarily mean, in my mind, just more numbers, bigger top line, bottom line. Though you've got to be profitable and healthy. It really is more growing personally. How do I grow as a leader? How do I grow as um, a person in the way I love my spouse, the way I love my kids, the way that I am involved in my community? So there's that side of personal growth, but there's also growing in business. And so we cultivate a dynamic where on a monthly basis we get out of our whirlwind that working in the business, we try and get out of that to work on the business. And we do that in forums. So we have an all day meeting, a group of 12 business owners who don't compete with each other, who just join covenant together to come and do life, be real, be transparent, to be accountable to one another, to really try and encourage one another. And we really just start with a check-in in the morning. How are we doing? What's life been like? What's good? What's not good? And we just go around and share those kinds of things very quickly. But it gives us a sense of what's been going on. Part of just doing that, you got to stop your whirlwind and think about it. How am I really doing? And what's the framework for asking the questions to assess how am I really doing? Then we just go into a devotion, brief devotion. Then we have a business segment. As you know, we've been learning in the last couple of months things focused on sales and marketing. And so, ideal customer profile, dominant selling idea. What's the value of the customers that we have, and how do we maintain loyalty and build loyalty among our customers? And so we've been focused on that most recently in that business segment. Then we do a ministry segment where we really just stop to think about this idea of what is business as a ministry and how do we do it? And so just in the last couple of months, we've talked about things like care teams and care funds. How do we have a care team to care for the people that touch our business? How do we do it in a well-ordered way as far as how do we care for people with money? You know, you got to be careful and you have to have good processes and procedures to make sure you don't step on a IRS landmine, or you doing it in a wise way as you handle the resources of the business. But that's the kind of thing that we think about. We have curriculum. The curriculum is not study like an MBA. Curriculum is designed to drive conversation among the 12 leaders around the table. And then, after lunch, we have a core business presentation where the leader comes and presents to their board of directors, as it were, their board of advisors. They might get advice or counsel, but people who've known you over time and they know your rhythms and they understand where your struggles have been, and you're coming to report. This is where we are today. This is me personally, and this is me as a business, and this is how what we've been working on. This is how we're doing. And sometimes there's encouragement given. Sometimes there's like, dude, you've been wrestling with that for 2 years and you haven't gotten it done. Why? So there's this encouragement, accountability, but it's in the camaraderie of just caring and loving one another in that forum. And then we go to open forum where you've got a decision. You get 10 or 12 minutes to ask your fellow members, look, I got this HR problem. If you were me, am I handling this right if I go down this path? Or I got to buy this piece of equipment? Or I've got this issue with a customer, and am I thinking about this right? So you just get the collected wisdom of 11 other members who know you and care for you. And then we end the day with to-dos. And what are we going to work on over the next 30 to 90 days to try and grow, to get better, and to be different? And, it might move the needle a little, but if every month you're moving the needle, over 12 months, you should be able to measure growth and see things that are different looking back through your C12 experience. So that kind of describes the day or what we do. Who is best to be around the table? Well, first of all, they got to be people who are not about themselves chiefly. They got to love people, care for people. They got to be good listeners. They got to be willing to pour into other people's lives. They've got to be willing to share. They got to be willing to be vulnerable and transparent. What's good, what's not good in my life. The power of a group goes up when I'm just transparent and I'm able and willing to be vulnerable. And if you're just going to come together as if you've got everything put together and life is just great and I have no issues, well, I hope that's true. I just haven't met many people like that. So, being real, being transparent with each other is a really key element. It's really hard for small businesses. If I'm only got one other employee and I've got three or $400,000 in revenue, maybe, and I have to shut the business down to go to a C12 day, that may not be the greatest fit yet. I'm not saying no, but ideally, what we find is the greatest return is $1.5 million, $2 million in revenue, 5 to 10 employees, people that can continue to run the business while you're at a C12 meeting and be able to maintain that. And you can go and get out of the business to work on the business. And um, got to be growth minded, got to be a leader who doesn't have to appear like you're just perfect in every way. You go to grow, you go to learn, but you also go to pour in each other.
Well done. I remember when I first joined a little over 2 years ago, the idea of being in that room with 11 other business owners. And when I started hearing people be vulnerable, like you talked about, that was completely new to me in a group environment like that. And then to watch as this person was vulnerable about a personal issue at home or a business issue, and they weren't just coming in like a lot of us do in meetings with other people in the industry where you don't talk about the bad stuff. How's business going? Business is great, doing good, and then I watch those people around the room love and care and help that person that was being vulnerable and sharing what they were going through. That was new for me. In a group setting like that. And it takes you a few months of being a member, I think, to let yourself get there, because we're in such a habit, I think, in life of hiding what's hurting. But you're so right a minute ago, when you're vulnerable, when you go to people who love and care for you with these problems, that's how you're getting through the storm. Which, by the way, we need to talk about that in a second, too. Another thing that you didn't mention as part of the format that I think is powerful for someone who is spiritual is the prayer piece. We're opening those meetings with real prayer. We're praying in little groups during that day. That is crazy powerful. And then, of course, we're ending with prayer time. And for people who are Christian, people who are spiritual, they know the value of prayer and what that can do to your life and to the life of others that you're praying for, and ultimately the will of God, that you're trying to accomplish for Him.
Hey Eddie, can I add to that
Please,
point there
please,
for a
of course.
second? Because I've had the privilege of recently reading and rereading a book called Lead with Prayer, and it's a really good book. But there was something at the
I was going to
very
reach over here
beginning
and
of
I've got
that
my
book.
copy right there. I can see it. I just can't get over
Yeah,
there to it.
they're great. Lead with Prayer. At the very beginning, it's quoting Tim Keller and one other, and it basically is saying this. And I struggle with this in myself, and I also struggle with my members in that, because I work with a lot of accomplished people. They have lots of skills. They've accomplished a lot of things. They're really good at what they do. The problem is they begin to depend upon that. They're really good and I can handle it. I'm gifted. I've run a good business. I've grown it. And then prayer becomes not necessary. They think. And to a Christian leader, that is death. Because what you're really saying is, in the flesh, I can handle it. I don't need God. And your prayer life is a real reflection as to how much you really believe you're good and you don't need God. And the more you see, I need help, your prayer life is going to be different. So to your point there, prayer is critical in who we are. And that's just a good way to think about how you view yourself, is how much you pray. How much do you need God? And your prayer life is a key indicator of that, where you are in that spectrum.
It's such a common thing, and I've been there. Don't know if you have. Many people have. It's so common to get complacent. Things are going okay, and then you don't pray until you've got problems. And but you're right. As you mature in your faith, then that's when you're more likely to understand prayer for more of what it is and why it's important.
Part of having a day to stop and think, how am I doing? It's that very thing, which is we do a balanced wheel check-in in my walk with God. Just to stop and think, how much have I really, I struggle with it now. I'm a shepherding elder in a church. I'm leading a C12 group. I can get just busy like everybody else. I've got 10 things to do and only 9 slots to do it in. I don't have time to pray, right? And so I need to stop my whirlwind, and I just need to reflect even now in where I am today on a constant basis. Am I living life as if I can do it without God? Am I trying to just let God fit in the little places in the corners of my life, or is he essential? Is he my breath? And so we all struggle with that, and you have to have some way to just stop and ask those kinds of questions.
Agreed. One of the questions, and maybe the reason I didn't join the first time was the one day a month. It's a whole day. And well, my schedule's busy. I travel a lot. Is it going to fall on days? Am I going to miss half of them because I'm traveling? And I think that's something they've got to decide that for themselves. But there is so much value in getting in my car, because I work from home every day, and everybody at Genesis does and has for many, many years. But there's so much value in me getting in my car, going across town, walking in that room, sitting down at that table of 12 plus you, that disconnects me and puts me in a different place. And so that, and I can't believe I didn't do it. I don't understand why I even hesitated about the one-day commitment. Let's go back real quick. The curriculum, all I'll add to that is I think it's cool that every month, 12 months in a year, you've got that curriculum, and that it's got the devotional section in the beginning, the ministry section at the end, and then a piece in the middle is the business section, marketing, things related to hiring and managing people. Every aspect of any business over time gets covered in that business section. And I know you said, I forgot your analogy, it's not like a Harvard textbook or whatever you said, but it's really good. It's great material, and it's had a very profound impact on my business in the last 24 months. Not every month. There's one month now and then that this doesn't resonate, or I don't have time to implement, or my brain can't even go there. I'm full. My brain's full. But that's been such a great thing for me, is the curriculum, and I like the structure of that. The other thing you mentioned was the core business, the CBP. So each month, I just want to kind of revisit that. Each month, a different one of the 12 team members, or forum members, is responsible for doing their business presentation. And the thing I wanted to mention, so people understand this, it takes, I don't want to scare people, but it takes a couple of months, not full time, but you need to start preparing for that a couple of months ahead of time. And it covers things and requires you to put on paper through this structured format. You're not just coming up with your own little business presentation. I wish we were sometimes, but what's required is pretty detailed and digs pretty deep. And then when you get up and present it to your other 11 members plus you, then you're right. Those folks are very often making you feel so good about yourself And I would say every time they're also going to point out some things that you might want to think about. I don't know that I've ever seen one. I've certainly not had, I've had two of them, and neither of my two did I go through without somebody saying, you need to think about this. And that's okay. That's wonderful. That's great. That's what it should be. So I think that's important. Those CBPs are really important.
They talk about the 360 part of it.
Yeah, this year they started that, and I'll say real quick, and then you can add anything you want to that. And you know that I probably like it more than anybody else in the group. I think each year before I'm getting ready for my CBP, part of that process is three of my fellow members for my C12 group interview three of my team members and my spouse, and they have questions that's it's not off the top of their head. Again, that's structured, and there's very good questions asking team members and spouse that really is able to dive deep into what's going on in the organization and what's going on at home. And that has been phenomenal to see how it's helped my fellow members and me is just crazy awesome. So anything you want to add to that? I think that, and they just started that in the last year.
Yeah, I would say great. You summarized it well. It's one thing to be able to walk into a room or to a leadership organization and just present yourself as all together. It's another thing when others that you work with day after day would agree or disagree. We all have blind spots. Let's just be realistic. I have blind spots. You have. Everybody has blind spots, and the only people who don't are those who don't understand what their blind spots are, and or they're not willing to admit it. Business has the ability to consume you if you allow it. Whatever business I was in school administration, whether it was running an insurance company, a C12 chair now, there is always more to do at the end of the day before the day runs out. You can work 70 hours a week and you could work 80 if you choose to do it. But does God ever call somebody to run a great business, forsake their marriage, their kids don't have a parent, there's no biblical community? Is that really God's will for the business to have such a control or demand over you that you're living life out of balance? And so that's really part of what we're just trying to encourage is, hey, am I living life in balance? Am I healthy all the way around, personally and professionally? So in a confidential setting, having some of that accountability brought in through people who are committed to you, who have no skin in the game. The members love each other, care for each other, but they're not business owners of each other. They're just there to try and help you and be committed to doing each other good. And so, but there's vulnerability to that, right? If you're not willing to be vulnerable, if you're going to come in with a shell and try and hide, then your value there's still value, but it goes down significantly.
You're right. God does not want us to sacrifice Him, our relationship with Him, with our spouse, with our family, for the business. And now, doing business is very biblical. God wants us to be productive, and God wants us to work. He wanted Adam and Eve to work in the garden. So working we need to work, but we don't need to sacrifice those things. And the worst, I think where the devil probably gets us is we believe that it's a short-term sacrifice. And all too often it's not short-term. And too much damage can get done before that term matures or expires. So that's a tough one to balance when people think, because nobody thinks I'm going to work this hard forever. And the next thing you know, it's been a year, 5 years, 10 years, kids are grown.
I think Tim Keller's book, Every Good Endeavor, Jordan Rayner's book, The Sacredness of Secular Work, two great books that every business leader, business owner ought to read, in my opinion. Keller really defines this idea of how does God take care of his creation? Well, one of the chief ways he does that is through businesses, the things that he calls you to do. And Psalm 147 is so clear. Luther, in his commentary on that, was just trying to read, well, how does God protect us? Well, he calls some people to be police officers, and he calls some to be border security guards, and sometimes airport security guards, or he calls how do we see children get educated and blessed? How does he bless children? Well, he blesses them with school teachers and physicians. And then how does God feed his people? Well, he calls some to be farmers and some others to work in a grocery store. And truck drivers, he calls them to be truck drivers. And this is how God's providing. And so your point, work is not pain and the consequences of the fall. Sin and the fall touch work, it's toil. But work is a good thing. And quite frankly, I believe the Bible is clear. In heaven, we're going to be working. We're going to be creative, doing things. And we just won't be doing it with the friction of sin in this fallen world. But work is good. I also think there's just something about, and I think of the insurance agents that you work with here. What an unbelievable opportunity, because not only do you have the sales side and all the things that come with running an insurance agency, but you, as an insurance agent, you well know, having been one, I having been one, you get to meet people in the time of crisis. Their house is burned to the ground. A friend comes over and falls, and now you got a med pay issue. You've got water heaters out. Now I can't be in my home, and it's just devastated my life. It is just such a disruption and the friction. And you have an opportunity to touch and bless people in real needs. Work is a beautiful thing, and you have an opportunity to either do it from the perspective of that is God's work and that's ministry. You're caring for other people in need, whatever your work is. And I think we have to have a good view of work. So Tim Keller, Every Good Endeavor, Jordan Rayner, The Sacredness of Secular Work, great books to get us perspective on that.
Amen. The Bible tells us to do everything that we do as though we're doing it for God. And it also tells us to be joyful. So, and I've been blessed. I've not had to work really hard. I've prayed for it, by the way. I've had seasons of my career, and I can be very specific. Around 2010, 11, and 12, I went through 2 or 3 years of less passion. It's kind of interesting to me that I remember when that was. I prayed for passion and energy and excitement, and I got it. I got it overnight. And by the way, it also made a financial impact in the business that was noticeable almost, and like the very next team meeting that we had and things like that. So it was so noticeable, and I was so grateful that prayer got answered, because sometimes God has something different in mind for you, that you don't get every prayer answered just because you want it if it's not his will. You mentioned to-dos. I'll just say I'm the king of to-dos. I love to-do lists. And I like checking things off. Most people do. And I like, when I do, with C12, that was a new thing for me. I'd always had goals and lists, and I use my calendar well for things to accomplish on certain days. But it's been a lot of fun having the to-dos. But you mentioned the balance wheel. Can you talk for a minute? Because I think the balance wheel and the 5-point alignment are 2 important tools that C12 offers its members. Can you kind of cover that?
So going back to this concept that it's really important to stop your whirlwind periodically. For us, it's at least once a month, and to assess, how am I really doing personally, and how is the business doing professionally? And to have some metrics built around that. And metrics for Eddie is going to be different than metrics for Doug. Our duties, our responsibilities, children, home life, personal, all those things are different for you, but there are some general characteristics. And so there are 10 areas that we have our members just stop and do some assessment. We try and tie it not to feelings. How do I feel today? We try and tie it to objective realities. And those 10 areas are going to be things like walk with God, marriage and family, discipling others, fitness and nutrition, rest and relaxation, biblical community, and also personal finance. And so just those areas to stop and think. But every year in December, we stop and kind of recalibrate. How are we doing in those areas? And what do I define as robustly healthy? We go on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 is robustly healthy. 1, we're on life support. It's really bad. What does a 10 for me look like in the season that I'm in right now? I have no young children. My nest now is empty. And but some a business leader who has young children, they just don't have, they have different duties and responsibilities that define what robust health looks like. But the point of the matter is you've got to define it and think about it. And so having defined ideas of what robust good health really looks like, and then checking in every month, at least trying to go around and assess where am I. And then on the balance in the 5-point alignment matrix, we have 5 areas, as you well know, in C12 that we try and think about in every business. So it doesn't matter if it's a manufacturing firm or insurance software or happen to be a marketing company. There's still, we believe, 5 areas you have to think about. Customer revenue, your customers, sales, marketing, your operations, the things that you do to deliver your product or service to your customer. Your org development, people, culture. We then think about finances, cash flow, accounts payable, accounts receivable, top line, bottom line, just the general robust health of the organization, and then ministry. Those are the 5 areas. And so we should each have key performance indicators that we can stop every month and think, am I on target, ahead of target, or behind target? So it's just stopping your normal crazy whirlwind, the emails, the customers, the stuff that you got to do to make your living and have your business run long enough to get out of it and reflect, how are we doing? And having some objective standards to doing that. So that's the balance wheel. That's the personal side of it, a balanced life. And then you have your business side of it in those 5 things.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I loved both of those tools when I started from day one. And I like the fact that then once you have that high level awareness of what probably is important, I think most of those things that are on those 2 areas is important to most everyone. And to have that high level perspective on those things, and then it feels like the C12 curriculum and all the other experiences around C12 and its members helps build those things out. So if I'm scoring myself low in certain areas at the beginning of my C12 journey, then in all likelihood, a year later, not overnight, but a year later, in all likelihood, I'm seeing some of those scores get a little higher. And I'll give you an example. On the ministry section for the 5-point alignment, how well is my business doing? And I'll word it a little differently that some people might watch this and they resonate with this wording better. How good a job is my company doing at serving others? That's one way we can think about it. And my business 2 years ago was doing a good job at compensating employees, having a good culture, being nice to people at work, giving our customers a good software product, and helping our customers with marketing and so on. But that was it, and that's all I knew. Now, thanks to C12, we have this thing called a care team. And this care team has really become another division or another component of our company, just like we've got a support department and a marketing department. Now, this care team is made up of volunteers, and most organizations do it that way. But that's been profound that we've sliced out a budget from our company to care in a far more profound way for our team members. And now we're starting to, in following the C12 implementation program for this kind of thing. Not that everybody, C12 doesn't say, no, you've got to have a care team, but I don't want people to think that. C12 gives you a lot of stuff, and then you implement what you feel like you're called to implement. But for us, that was a big one for me because I was scoring low 2 years ago. And now when I score my ministry, I score it on track. I'm not where we want to be yet, but we budgeted, and for the last 2 years now, or year and a half, we've got a team of people that manage that. We've funded team members who've had financial problems due to health issues, accidents, storms, different things. We've helped with counseling. We've even helped some customers to that care initiative. And to me, it kind of goes together. Less than a year ago, we added a chaplain to our organization, to a chaplain service. And I've talked to you about that, as you know, and we've loved that. We've loved to have a chaplain, and she's checking in every morning like the rest of my team does on chats. Good morning, everybody. Here's what my day looks like. And she's not a full-time member. She's a chaplain service that anyone watching this can subscribe to that. And you or I either want to be glad, right, to share that information with anyone, whether they become a C12 member or not. But that's been one of the best investments we've made, is adding on to that care team with the chaplain service. So love the balance wheel, love the 5-point alignment, and love the fact that C12 doesn't just say, here's good things to score yourself on, but then now let's go through the process of improving that score, filling in those gaps.
His Way at Work is another great example of that care team. They have a great model and a caring matrix. It's worth probably checking those out if we've piqued an interest in anybody. I would, and really what it boils down to is that you as an owner or a leader of the organization trying to get a culture of developing your employees to care for one another, to be on the lookout, and to genuinely have concern for the well-being of those that they work with. And His Way at Work has got a great model for doing that. The corporate chaplains, here's this idea of like, how in the world do I bring this business as a ministry into perspective? And when you just stop and think about it, it's not about preaching sermons. Have you ever preached a sermon at work? Yeah, no, it's craziness. But where you make available to anybody who wants it, chaplains who will go around and establish relationships, care, be available. If a crisis comes up, that chaplain has the ability to care, to love, to be a part of life if they're invited into that. But you're developing an opportunity where that person may be exposed to Christianity and the beauty of who Christ is for the first time through that simple relationship.
Yeah, it's been great. We have almost 30 employees, and almost everyone has engaged in a meaningful way with the chaplain. And you're right, not all of them necessarily have been talk to me about God or pray for me even, but some of them has been, I need somebody to talk to. I've got this going on. And so it's just been great. I think we're running out of time.
No.
And but I'd like to do this again. I think down the road a bit, I think we could reconvene, kind of have a part 2 of this thing one of these days. Anything that you want to add as we kind of wind it up here?
Yeah, I'm just going to reaffirm what I believe is most of the people who are going to listen to this podcast and who you serve as customers, which is insurance agencies. I just want to reaffirm my deep appreciation for what they do. Now, I love insurance. I love that industry, and so it comes natural to me. But being really good at what you do and building processes and people to serve. We live in a broken world, and when things break, we need help. It doesn't matter whether it's a car insurance or a home insurance or life insurance. It is really important to be good and healthy and engaging, to bless people in need. And ultimately, every business that's going to be successful has got to fall in love and be passionate about people and that they're their customers, and understand them deeply and seek to engage them well. And I just think the insurance world in general is just a great opportunity to care for people, and it's got meaning. And so I want to encourage your followers, the people you do business with that may listen to this podcast. Kudos to you.
I agree with all that. Lisa and I, just like you, my wife Lisa and I both have been in the industry for 30 plus years. It's all we've ever done. And we love it as well. The part about people doing the job well and being good at what you do, when every 2 years C12 has a conference, and just came back from one a few months ago. You were there, I was there. How many people were there?
It was around 2,000 people gathered together, C12.
So 2,000 people at the conference. How many C12 members total? 4,000, 5,000?
5,000.
Okay, 5,000 members total. About 2,000 were at the...
Yeah, there's about 200 and almost 40-ish chairs like me full time, and that's just in the U.S. And then we have multiple continents: Brazil, Ukraine, South Africa, Malaysia, Taiwan, where there's C12 chapters.
At this last conference, which was the first one I'd been to because it's just every 2 years, I loved it. Lisa and I both. You know, it was one of those things we signed up, make the trip, be gone from work a few days. It's always a decision to make. But we said, well, let's do it one time. If we won't do it again, and we'll do it every time. I can't imagine us not attending that. It was so wonderful. And one of the concepts that I came back with, coming off of you saying a minute ago, people needing to do a good job, is that God expects us to do everything with excellence. And not that I haven't heard something like that before, and I want to do well, I want to do good, but that raises the bar for me a little bit, and sometimes I tend to kind of keep working too hard to get better and better, and I think, well, maybe I need to relax, but maybe not. Maybe the standard is excellence, not perfection. Maybe that's the wrong word, but excellence is a good word. So if everyone watching this will get up every morning and say, I want to live today on purpose with excellence, then I think that frames it a little differently in your mind, and kind of maybe you'll end your day a little differently than you would have had you not started it that way. Last thing, Doug. Oh, by the way, I was thinking about this a minute ago. Not that this is really the point at all, but I was thinking about 2 years ago when I joined C12, and now, did you know that I believe we've had the most revenue? Our company, I believe, it's not quite, but it's almost doubled in size in 2 years, almost. I'm not saying it's as a result of the work that's come out of C12 or the blessing that's come out of C12, but...
Yeah, that's amazing. That's wonderful.
That's happened in the last 2 years, and it's been the biggest growth of our 30 years. We've always grown, but it's been the biggest growth. I hadn't thought about that till just a moment ago. If there's anyone watching this that would like more information about C12, did they contact you? Did they contact C12 headquarters?
Yeah, joinc12.com. It'll take them right to the website. Then, depending on where they are in the country, there are different chairs all over the U.S., and you can find exactly where you are and then be directed right to a chair who would be glad to engage with anybody to get more information about C12. So joinc12.com.
Love it. Well, I hope some people check it out. If anyone has questions, I'm a fan. I'll be glad to answer any questions anyone has as well. But Doug, thank you for your time today. This has been amazing, and thank you for giving me almost an hour of great energy today.
Yeah, it's been a delight, Eddie, and it's a delight to walk with you. May God continue to bless you and Lisa and your team doing what you do.
Thank you so much. Take care, Doug.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to the Insurance Agency Success Podcast, where independent insurance agents like you get the tools and insights to grow, streamline, and enjoy your business. If today's episode gave you something valuable, please take action and start making changes in your agency today. And if you're ready to simplify operations and scale, visit genesissoftware.com and click on the orange button to book your demo. I appreciate you being here. Keep building, keep growing, and I'll see you next time.